Hi everybody, thank you for being here. My name's Kirsty and I'm here to share with you some tips and tricks that I've learned myself along the way, having started my own limited company in 2012. Some of you may know Island Spirt. We specialise in eco-adventure holidays, historically on islands, Fiji, Sri Lanka, Vanuatu and Barbados. Fiji and Sri Lanka have been those operating. So I'm here to share some secrets and give you some tips and tricks. So without further ado, I'll explain more about the chronological time frame of events from very early on, just setting up at the very beginning. So I'm the founder of Island Spirt Limited. It's recently converted to a community interest company. So now it's Island Spirt C.I.C. So I started off in Fiji as a volunteer, firstly. So during that time, I had established great relationships with local tribal leaders, with government leaders as well, and with the NGO world from the Red Cross, UNDP, and Partners in Community Development Fiji. So I'm sharing this with you because the essence of the entire company started from a charitable energy. So that was back in 2009. And I felt at the time that I just fell in love with the Fijian Islands, the community spirit, and I felt that there was a great need for more enthusiasm to help these wonderful people, because at that time there were very few companies doing ecotourism in Fiji. In fact, front page of the Fiji Times here shows that I was the first ecotourism company in Fiji to launch. Although the press is slightly exaggerating over there, I was actually the first voluntourism company. So that was the reason that happened, was because I had my eyes open to opportunity. I'll refer back to this in the tips and tricks. So eyes open to opportunity, meaning that I could see that there was a gap in the market. So who am I now? I am somebody who is a great believer. I believe that we should change the way we think about travel fundamentally. It's time we do that. COVID has given us the drive to work forward in the world of ecotourism, responsible, sustainable travel, ethical, moral travel, whatever you want to call it, green travel. My passions lie in fair trade, social enterprise, and international project management, because I've seen how the impact of my work has influenced local people and all the people that I've hosted from 13 different countries over the years. So I continue to inspire people to make positive change throughout their lives by introducing them to life-changing experiences where they're immersed into local communities and cultures, at the same time as introducing them to applied conservation projects such as coral gardening, mangrove planting, and a number of other projects that I've worked producing and facilitating whilst hosting people. So it's a virtuous circle business model that allows everyone involved to benefit. That's the key. I don't believe in big business just sucking energy and money and just using it for their own gain to, to pump back into the business and share with stakeholders and just become bigger and bigger. I think tourism is a tool to make the world a better place. So I've led an epic life. So far. I started Island Spirt when I was 30. And since then, I'm 42 now. So since then, I have lived in, well, actually, before then, I've lived in Paris for 2 years, Sydney for 1 year, Fiji for 10 years, Sri Lanka, not quite as intensively, but for 5 years. And so I've always been juggling lots of different things and exploring the world, because opportunities did come along and I created opportunity. They don't just land on your doorstep. Opportunities are there to take and to make happen, actually. Because of this movement around the world, I was in Fiji for a long time, which allowed me to live within and amongst some incredible communities, which opened my eyes to new values, traditions, and ways of living, ways of doing business. I spent lots of time in Fiji. So for me, time and money are the two concepts in life that we all lack. However much money we have, we don't have enough of it. And time, no, how much time we have, we never have enough. So I think what's quite unique about Island Spirit is that I invested huge amounts of time learning slowly about the culture in Fiji and the people. And what I learned on the way is what they need and what I can do to help them achieve what they need to have a better quality of life. For example, there was a great need after the death of a young boy who died of first-degree burns, and the only reason that happened on an outer island was because the village didn't know that putting water on burns stops the skin from burning. So they did witchcraft on him, which involved moving the hand across the skin and singing for 2 hours while they waited for the boat to the hospital. But it was a tragic death that could have been prevented. So we spent a lot of time fundraising for medical equipment and I personally did workshops teaching villages how every village has a little nurse and they disseminate information. So I'd teach the nurses how to use plastic bags and water to prevent burns, because kerosene is used all over Fiji to light the small huts. And another example was to fundraise for solar lanterns instead of the kerosene lanterns, which are lantern lamps, so we distributed hundreds of solar lanterns. So that's two examples of just listening to what the locals wanted and how to apply what we were doing to help their lives become more fulfilled and better quality. My groups from Australia helped with the dissemination of these products, this aid, and in the process, the students themselves, this client was a school, they were learning about social enterprise, and hopefully their lives have been changed for the better to really understand that we all need certain core elements in our life to survive and lead a happy life. And one of them is security, another is safety, another is food and water. Then there's love and a roof over your head. But there are many people in this world that don't have any of those. So the students on one side who were paying guests were benefiting. 10% of those proceeds were given to the project, which I've just highlighted. So the model is all about giving back. So according to some, if you spend 10,000 hours doing one thing, then you are an expert. So I'm an expert in Fiji, maybe Sri Lanka now, but I spent over 10,000 hours in Fiji learning about the core elements of life there and the environment too. So the coral gardening projects were very hands-on, and really you've got to get down there with your mask on, upside down, with a piece of coral of which you've snapped off already, an already broken floret of coral, and you plant it into substrate, a bit like gardening. And so that's an example of one of the very applied conservation projects. Applied means that you can be anybody and do it if you're taught properly. You don't have to be a scientist or a conservation expert. So I was connecting students, people, guests who were just interested and passionate about conservation to the actual projects. And that was incredibly fulfilling, especially with coral gardening, because you need sheer hands, lots of them. It's not very difficult, but it's all about numbers. So more recently, I have qualified as a TEFL teacher and a yoga instructor. The reason I've done that is to diversify, which is an important aspect of being able to run your own business. You have to be able to understand, or at least have the ability to be flexible and adapt accordingly to adversity. And this is the best time we're ever going to have to practice how to flex around adversity and challenges. I did speak about this before in one of the lectures I've done, or we had a live talk. So we do need to be able to look at the bigger picture and open up our minds to other opportunities. I think this is a great asset to hold when you're running your own business, because there are all manners of different things. I call them sideballs that are going to ultimately throw themselves at you, and you need to be able to just dodge them or catch them and, run with it. The way the yoga and the TEFL will influence Island Spirit is that I will now be able to teach yoga on my wildcrafted wellness retreats that did host in 2019 and will be hosting again in Sri Lanka. Again, this is another product that I've introduced to the portfolio, other than adventure tours, because I employ locals to do the guiding, the cleaning, the cooking, the workshops. Everything is employed locally where I can. Yoga teachers are particularly difficult to come by in Sri Lanka. They're very rare anyway, and they're mainly men, and they already have their own businesses. So there isn't enough opportunity there. So I'm going to be teaching myself, which I really enjoy as well. And also the TEFL teaching is really important too, because I'm going to be restarting the volunteering in Sri Lanka. So you come along, as with Fiji, to share your skills in a volunteering capacity within the school education arena over there. So I'm working with the Ministry of Education and the local authorities to launch that. And that will probably, I imagine, work for next November 2022. So it's realistically, there's a lot of time needed to keep going with these relationships and building trust. Although I've had face-to-face meetings with all of the authorities, it's about understanding when yes means no, and cultural challenges. So yes, the TEFL is now applicable and transferable in the context of my volunteering programs, because I can teach at the same time as my volunteers, which is great. A few years ago, I also started a fair trade shop. It was inspired by a group of women. You'll see them if you go to my LinkedIn profile, who are weaving voi mats in Fiji. So they're really big, wonderful mats. I'll show you one later, actually. Really big, wonderful floor mats that are used in the midday sun to keep just to relax and have a siesta, and they'll put them underneath a palm tree with their babies, and these are woven mats. So what we saw again was an opportunity to resize them to a yoga mat size and then sell them online, and we sold loads. Our first batch was of 30, and we've sold them to places as far afield as the Faroe Islands. So that's one product on the Etsy site that I've started. It's an informal shop, but it's all about promoting fair trade products and also giving these local women their own direct income. during this last 10 years as well, I've been volunteering all the time. the the most productive ones, interesting actually, I would say that they would be the aid dissemination projects, where I was fundraising for cyclone relief after Category 6 cyclones. And they're really all encompassing. There's nothing else you can do all day for 12 hours a day. You're raising money, managing money. You're in and out of in the Ministry of Health in Fiji. So Ministry of Health, who have big packed warehouses full of aid that they have received from Australia and New Zealand especially. So at one point we were tapping into their stock in order to disseminate to an outer island. Then the money used in our fundraising campaign was used to buy directly from shops. We were funding things especially like potatoes, onions, rice, seeds and growing pots, nails, hammers, saws, all tools to put their houses back together. This was incredible. We also had to buy the petrol, the fuel for the boats in order to get the goods over to the outer islands. So this is, I learned very quickly, is all consuming, really, really expensive. I actually used a lot of my own money because I didn't really understand how expensive it is and how little help we would get from other sources. But on the other hand, there is another fundraising campaign I'm doing currently. You're welcome to donate. And that is to supply reading glasses to the elders of 5 different villages in the forest in Taveuni, which is an outer island in Fiji. And I have to say, the response I get from disseminating or giving away reading glasses is up there with how happy people are when they receive aid after a cyclone. They are so unbelievably happy to be able to weave again, or to even read again or see. So I think that's one of the most fulfilling fundraising events that I've done in 2018 and 2019, and now we're just doing a new one. I think we've raised so far £90, £3 funds, 1 pair of glasses and 1 pouch. So we've already in 4 days, I think, since National Women's Day when I launched it, fundraised quite a lot for quite a lot of people. So really happy about that. And these are the projects that come hand in hand with Island Spirit. So that's really cool. Very happy about that. I'll give you the link below if you want to donate. So now 2021, nearly 9 years after I started, I'm in a place where I am less inclined to run around and operate myself. I'm more inclined to stay put in the UK, share my skills and knowledge with the likes of yourselves, and to outsource these trips when I need to. So acting more of a green travel agent. So less running around to all these amazing countries, more so coming back and taking stock here, sharing skills. And I just want to say that all throughout this journey, I have learned as much as I have taught, if you like. I've created lots of opportunity for people, my guests, to learn so much about the rich cultures and incredible environments that they experience when they travel with Island Spirit. But at the same time, I've learned incredible amounts from the local people who are involved in the trips and the guests themselves, because they're all really quality, like-minded people. And so we all share so much. I've had such an incredible time. And I think that relates to the whole concept of social enterprise. It's social, it's sociable, and that we all share together amazing experiences. So now it's time to share with you some tips and tricks. But before I go on to that, I'd like you to take a moment and think about what social enterprise is for you. Think about we hear the word social enterprise all the time, but what does it mean to you? Do you really understand the implications and the challenges involved with this type of business? Does it relate automatically to sustainable development or sustainable tourism, responsible travel? So while you take a moment, I just want you to maybe think about as well what you believe in, because the core root of sustainable travel, responsible tourism, and social enterprise, from my perspective, is belief, real belief in something, a concept, a product, a service. So my tip number one is firstly to think about what social enterprise is for you and what you believe in. Because in the future, things are going to get hard. So it's always important to refer back to your core belief. So to answer what sustainable travel social enterprise is for me, it's the ability in business to prioritize the environment and the culture over profit. And that to me is very simple. It's a nice little wrap of everything put together, and it demonstrates a lot more than it actually says in those few words. So it represents a bigger picture. So that's tip one. To remind you, I said this at the beginning, but I said I believe in changing the way people think about travel. I'm passionate about fair trade and responsible travel experiences and sharing them with other people. So all of this is quite easy to say, but I've had the years to demonstrate it too. But yeah, think about what you believe in. Tip number two. Okay, so I think you should treat your CV like it's a tiny little sapling and it needs nurturing and watering and feeding all the time. It's very simple. So just tip number two, look after your CV. Okay, great. So tip number three is I think with regards to writing, apart from on your CV and your essays, of course, I believe now that I didn't know before, be prolific in and not perfect. Prolific just means just get it out there as much as you can. And we're talking about do it really well and pump it out there. So it could be the way you manage your social media marketing. It could be about pitching. It could be anything, but do get it out there, because remember that nobody knows you exist until you talk about it. And when you're too perfect, when you're a perfectionist, you tend to spend way too long on things and they'll either get swallowed up and forgotten about, or you just procrastinate so long you miss the deadline. So really, to be prolific, get it out there. So tip number four is to continue learning. So once you finish your degree, continue. If you're on your degree, keep going. There are some amazing courses there now, better than ever before. One that stands out is called the Fundamentals of Digital Marketing by the Google Digital Garage umbrella, if you like, and it's free, it's certified. There are 26 modules and 40 hours worth of work. It's amazing because it's free and it's certified, so it's all very well doing free courses, but you definitely need to have the certificate to prove that you've done it. Tip number five is all about honing in, recognizing and identifying your own work ethic and making it better. We can always be better at certain things. So some of the aspects of that stand out, I know are kind of recognized, and a couple I've added on. So there's integrity. So work with absolute core authenticity and deep passion. Then there's honesty. So you're constantly working to be, again, authentic and honest in your approach, because people aren't stupid. Not that anyone thinks they are, but it's amazing how people out there, whether they're professional or informal contacts, whether they're funding bodies, whether they're future partners, they are sussing you out way before you think they are. And they know, they can tell by your eye contact, by your energy, by your integrity and your honesty. So always maintain that. And really, I think for me, that comes from a place of passion. So if you love your product or your service, then you ooze that very naturally. Another one is discipline, and that's all very well. It's very difficult, especially when you're home working or home studying. But to create this discipline is essential because we just need to keep going. I will touch on it in a bit, but I believe throughout your 20s, you just have to keep working, work harder than you've ever worked before. And in your 30s, you'll come to a place where maybe, you know, like with me, something just blossomed and it was encaptured all that I'm good at in one business plan, business concept. And then there is to be fair and respectful. So this is working from the point of view of a leader, but also if you're within an employee umbrella, to be fair and respectful to other people will build up an amazing network of mutual respect too. And that can work very slowly but surely into the future when you're building a network of trust and contacts, a little black book, so to speak. To be responsible and accountable, I'm going to be touching on that too. So if you want to like really push yourself, I suggest being accountable to someone and taking responsibility for your own work, so, or your own mistakes or your own achievements, but be responsible for those. Personally, I've added, I think organization is key. So you can use Trello, for example. I'll give you the link at the end. And I also think a good work ethic is to do the hardest things of the day first on your list. Some people call it frogging. But to do the hardest things first and then the easiest things last, and only give yourself a realistic amount of time, amount of to-dos on your to-do list. In the world of social enterprise, I think it's really easy to maybe think of an idea and then just kind of just get really excited about it. But when you're thinking about location, one of my tips here then, number 6, is to find a location that has limited barriers to entry. So we want to avoid language barrier, civil conflict, even human rights issues. It's very tempting to go to developing countries because they're cheap to live, and so the risk is lower when it comes to financial input and investment in the first instances. But do be really aware that the barriers are really existent. They really exist, especially, for example, in Sri Lanka. There's a barrier of the human rights issues that have come up just over the last few weeks about the current Prime Minister, who was, you know, a member of the army during the tragic civil war of 25 years against the Tamils. So the Tamils against the government, but he's back in power and everybody's up in arms, and the human rights charities are really worried about the future. So there's that. And then Fiji, I started working a dictatorship in Fiji, actually. And as a woman on the other side of the world, white, working in a dictatorship, I was surprised how easy it was. But normally you want to keep your eye out for things like political unrest. Absolutely. I think it's important, tip number 7, to recognize if you're a visual person or a numbers person. So when you do understand that, I think you can go on, I haven't got the links, but you can do business analysis or character analysis tests to figure out what kind of place you're at, how you wired, and with that in mind you can start working on that channel rather than doing too much number work. I mean, you're just like swimming uphill if you do that. So really think about who you are, how you're wired before you enter into a certain direction. Tip number 8, learn to juggle. There's an absolute need to juggle. Have a look at this. It's really important. Like, I am a juggler, jack of all trades, master of none. It depends what you want to call it, but juggling, learn to juggle. Be good at lots of things, and that's where the CPD comes in, the continual professional development. But yeah, as you can see by this infographic, you will end up in the social enterprise world probably doing quite a lot of fantastic and exciting things. So you really need to know how to work all of those together. Organization platforms like Trello really help with that too. Tip number 9 is to volunteer. So do lots of volunteering because it's really respected now. You're welcome to approach me with a cover letter and a CV if you feel that your skills are transferable, because I've got lots of projects going on. Tip number 10 is to put more hours in than you think. So when you're in your 20s, I really suggest just getting as much done as you possibly can, doing more work than you ever thought you were capable of, really maximizing workload, getting loads and loads of work experience, working for money, doing volunteer work, but get all of that experience under your belt, and you'll be so happy you did that when you get into your 30s and in a place of financial stability where you can start your own business. Tip number 11 is to become a member of as many institutes as you can. Some free memberships, some are paid for. Because I was a member, I can't remember who it was with now, maybe the Responsible Travel Organisation, The Guardian picked up one of my trips in Fiji and listed me as one of the top 10 adventure activities to do in 2015. Oh my God, that I just nearly cried when that happened. That to be recognized by the Guardian was just the best thing ever. And I didn't give them money for it. I didn't advertise. So do be a member of institutes and organizations. It will really help get yourself out there. And actually you can do that on a personal level too. So tip number 12, to recognize deeply that failure makes you succeed better. You may have heard of this concept because Elizabeth Day is talking a lot about it at the moment. She's an author, journalist and writer and now podcast host. She is behind How to Fail. I'm not suggesting you go out there and try to fail. I'm suggesting that when you do fail, that your mindset is more open and conceptual, looking at the bigger picture and recognizing that failure is normal, and that if you do, you're probably going to succeed better. Tip number 13, your business plan, as with your CV, is absolutely integral. I spent 8 months on mine in Fiji, and it was a full-time role. The reason, I think, in a nutshell, the best way to explain it without being boring and predictable is that your business plan is basically the foundations of your concept. And in the world of social enterprise, the world is against you. Nobody believes that this can be, you're just another dreamer. Honestly, the world is against you. So to build your business plan demonstrates to funders, partners, oh my God, everybody out there, that you have thought deeply about your project and that it will work. And that you're ready to answer any questions. Nobody can trip you up because they want to trip you up. It's so satisfying when you prove them wrong, but it's a hard challenge. Social enterprise, sustainable travel, all of these virtuous business models are incredibly challenging because people don't believe it will work. Tip number 14 is to be a magpie, to open up your eyes, looking at opportunity, partnerships, but mostly look for a gap in the market. Be a magpie. And finally, tip number 15, get a mentor. So you're welcome to approach me under the Oxford Brookes mentoring program or independently. I don't know if that's allowed, but you're welcome to approach me. I'm happy to be a mentor within my time scope, if you like, but I really enjoy sharing, and now I'm understanding way more than I did before, even that there's a two-way benefit going on with mentoring. I'm learning as much as my mentees, and I really enjoy sharing. But you, at your point in life, I can't tell you the value of really tapping into, even if you've got one mentor who's with you for an extended period of time, excellent. But don't be afraid to phone up, email, LinkedIn, text, whatever, contact who you really admire, giving them a compliment first and say, I'd love to take you for coffee and ask just a few questions about the industry you're in. They would love that. They want a break from their computer. So you could take them for lunch or just a coffee. It really works. So good luck. So there you have my tips and tricks for being a social entrepreneur and working within the world of sustainable travel, responsible tourism, or social enterprise. Ultimately, anything that has a wonderful, virtuous business model where everyone involved benefits. Feel free to contact me. I will leave my email at the bottom, at the end here, along with all the links that I suggest that you can tap into. But for the moment, I hope you enjoyed this talk, and I hope to hear from you all soon. Enjoy the rest of the term and good luck. Bye.